What is up, everybody? We are back with our team review, and we are on to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not sure what number team we are, but I assume just logic, we're about halfway through the alphabet. We're about halfway through the teams. It's August 5th, so training camps have about a week in. Hall of Fame game has passed, so stuff's happening. There's action, there's news. Things will change, but we are going to get into the Kansas City Chiefs and just look at from a fantasy point of view and where they're being drafted and our thoughts on it. Dad, Kansas City, I mean, they have a couple, not as many studs as you would think, but they do have a couple, right? Do you expect big things from Kansas City again? Super Bowl contenders, obviously, back in the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, Kansas City's kind of funny, you know. Of course, Mahomes and Kelsey, you know, and then we sprinkle in different running backs and wide receivers. No one really took the Tyreek Hill spot, but so I don't know. There's fantasy wise, you know, where everybody expects Kadarius Toney to do something, but that guy's hurt again, and you know. But we'll try to hash it out and see what happens.
Yeah. They are an interesting team. I'm glad that I don't know. There always is going to be hype on their players. They're always going to be every player, and it kind of happens with Jacksonville this year. There's a couple other teams. I mean, the Lions not so much because of there's only a couple options there. But my point is all these guys. If you see Kansas City next to their name, they get like at least a 1-round boost to where they're going essentially. A couple of them are justified. A couple others aren't. We'll get into it. We'll start with Patrick Mahomes. Not much to say about Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. He's a stud. He was QB1 last year. He threw for over 40 touchdowns. He's one of the rare quarterbacks that doesn't need to do anything with rushing, and he can be the number one quarterback with his arm because he's going to throw for over 5,000 yards. And 40 touchdowns at least. So he does give you a little bit of a rushing floor. He gives you 350 yards rushing, which is not nothing, right? I mean, that's actually a point. I would assume about a point and a half. That's about 2 points a game in rushing. So it's not nothing, but nothing that you're not drafting him for is rushing. I guess my question to you, Dad, is Patrick Mahomes your QB1 for fantasy? And would you be okay with taking him like in the first round or the beginning of the second round?
Yes and yes. So he is my QB1, and I depending on where I'm at in the first round, the later part of the first round, I think I'd be all right with it. You know, in the second round for sure. I think the guy puts up numbers. You expect the same this year, 5,200 yards. That's pretty good. You know, he had 4 rushing touchdowns also.
Yep.
All of that helps. But
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's tough. No, it's not tough, but I mean, like, yeah, Josh Allen could be QB1. Jalen Hurts could be QB1. Like any of those three, if everyone stays healthy, those are kind of the only three, in my opinion, that can be QB1. Maybe Burrow, maybe, Lamar could be QB1 as well, in my opinion. It's because their rushing ability, but you get a level of safety with Mahomes, right? There's a little bit of uncertainty with, is Josh Allen going to run less? Jalen Hurts, it's like, okay, can he do it one more time until we fully buy it? I buy in on him, but I think a lot of people are like, let's see it one more time. Mahomes is like the safest player maybe in all of fantasy. You know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get potentially the QB1. That's not going to change unless he gets hurt. So not much to say about him. I don't like drafting quarterbacks this soon. That's just my philosophy, but I'm not going to argue with it because you're locking down a guy who's going to give you 25, 28 points every week. And there's a lot of value in that for sure. So the running backs, a little bit more interesting here. Isaiah Pacheco listed as the RB1, Jerick McKinnon as the RB2, Clyde Edwards-Helaire as the RB3. I'm going to come out and say it right now. Isaiah Pacheco is a guy that I am not going to roster on my team because he's dipped a bit because of the injury. I don't think he's going to be cleared. I think I read he's going to be cleared for contact by mid-August. But Pacheco, good runner, nice runner. I've been saying it all along. I think he's going to run himself into an injury the way he runs. My issue with him is you have to take him in the middle of round 7. And I'm just not in on that. Dad, am I crazy?
No, you're not. I wouldn't either. The guy, everybody always likes the new players, and he runs the tough running style and stuff like that. He's not worthy of round 7 because he's not going to play. He's probably not going to play as an RB1 for Kansas City all year. There's just too many other options with McKinnon and CEH and stuff, and so I'm not spending a 7th rounder on him.
Yeah, and Kansas City is not going to turn into this running team. They're just not. They will have some games where they lean on the run. You saw it last year, but the most carries he had was 22, and then he was basically from weeks 9 to 15. He was a 15 carry guy with no catches. Yeah, a couple catches maybe, like 1 or 2 if you're lucky, but like a 15 touch guy. And just looking at the guys he's going around David Montgomery. There's no question there. Don't even bring that up. It's David Montgomery, not a question. James Conner is James Conner, and it's not a question. Even guys like, obviously Kamara is probably going to get boosted, but even guys like Antonio Gibson, I would take over him. Those are the guys I'm probably going to take over him. And that's not even looking at what wide receivers are going around him. So there's 3 or 4 running backs easily I would take over Pacheco. Not super high on him. And on top of that, he's not practicing, right? He's not cleared for contact at least. And that's an issue. And we just saw this team bench a first-round pick in Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he wasn't performing or wasn't there or was injured or whatever. What do you think they would do with a 7th-round pick? You think they're going to stay loyal to a 7th-round pick? No. If there's someone else who's better, who's performing better, see ya. We're going to roll with this guy, So just not in on it. Don't do it. If you can get him maybe 2 or 3 rounds later, go for it. Don't draft him in the 7th round. You're going to lose. You're potentially going to lose you're not going to lose your league because of it, but it's not going to help you win, I don't think. I really don't think it's going to help you win. So, next guy on this list, Jerick McKinnon, who kind of exploded last year because as a pass catcher, he was not carrying the ball at all. He only had 72 carries last year, which is not a lot, but he was catching the hell out of the ball. He had 56 catches, 71 targets, and I'm pretty sure from week 8 on, the guy was a top 12 running back. Part of the reason is because he caught 9 touchdowns. Yeah. Caught 9 touchdowns, had 10 total. Dad, are you expecting, again, more of the same with Jerick McKinnon? Are you expecting him to be the receiving back there? They brought him back, didn't really bring anyone else in. He's going in middle of round 10. Are you more in on that, or are you still kind of I don't want Jerick McKinnon in the middle of round 10?
No, I don't like Jerick McKinnon. I'd have to see what other running backs are available, but he had a pretty good career, and he went to San Francisco a number of years ago and was going to be the man in San Francisco. He ended up blowing his knee out twice in San Francisco. So
an Achilles.
Yeah, and so it's not surprising. It's good to see guys come back from that stuff. And, obviously he's got a role with Kansas City. That's what it is, a role, So it's not to carry the ball, It's be the pass catcher out of the backfield. He almost had 60 receptions last year, so, but round 10, I don't know. That's a little too much, but you have to evaluate who else you're going to take. But if you're expecting a high volume out of this guy, just not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at the running backs he's going around, I'm fine taking it. I mean, he's going around Zach Charbonnet, Damian Harris, Devon A-Chain, Elijah Mitchell, like around these guys. I'm fine if you need a running back and that's, the direction you go. Looking at receivers going around him, Rashad Bateman, Juju, Jacoby Myers, Zay Flowers. You could probably get a decent quarterback at that point. You can maybe go your quarterback and get like a Jared Goff or Anthony Richardson if you want to go that route. So, yeah, like you throw these names out and say, yeah, like I'm kind of fine with Jerick McKinnon there. I think the biggest thing is, though, like, man, his stretch from week 12 on, he had a touchdown in every game. And 2 of those, he had 2 touchdowns. 3 of those, he had 2 touchdowns. So, like, in a 6-week span, he had basically 10 touchdowns, right? He had 9 touchdowns in a 6-week span. That's probably not going to happen again. I would assume that's really, really high touchdown percentage. But, we're going to talk about it in a second. There's not much. The receivers, like, they don't scare you away from, like, okay, I can see a running back having 60 catches in this offense because we're going to get into it, the receivers. Before we do get into the receivers, a guy that I'm actually maybe back in on, I've been taking a lot in, like, the last round of my best ball leagues, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Former first-round pick. Is disappointed up until this point, but now what's nice about him is he's basically free. He's going in round 17, which is potentially maybe leagues don't even have the 17th round. So he's essentially free. I'm kind of back in on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the fact that he is free. He's still a first-round pick. He's still on Kansas City. So, he did have a good start of the season last year, and then I think he kind of got hurt. And then Pacheco kind of took over, and they never really went back with him. But they could just bring him right back and say, like, we still believe in you. We still want to get value out of you. Dad, are you feeling the same way with Pacheco going into probably his last year with Kansas City? Because I don't think they're going to pick up his 5th-year option.
Yeah, well, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. Well, so as long as he stays healthy, I mean, he could be, the second running back out of the back, not as a pass catcher, but as a rusher. He kind of had a weak year last year and stuff like that. But yeah, like you said, yeah. I like the word, you get them for almost free. So
that's what it is. And he could be, you said the second runner. He could just be the guy. Like, he's obviously has enough talent to be drafted in the first round. Like, he could just be the guy. We've seen him be able to catch the ball. Like, his rookie year, I'm looking at. Like, yeah, he was overdrafted in fantasy because of the Kansas City, but he put up 1,100 total yards, 5 touchdowns with 36 catches, and that was in 13 games. He missed 3 games because it was a 16-game season. So you're probably looking at, like, if he stays healthy, you're kind of looking at a 1,300 total yard guy with 45 catches and 7 touchdowns. That's really good. Now, he has that potential, and I really wouldn't be surprised, especially with Pacheco not in training or, not taking contact for another week or so. Like, I could see him just being the guy again, and it's just kind of a Kansas City move, which is why I'm a little afraid of Pacheco. And I'm kind of in on Helaire. Like, take a chance on him. If he sucks and does nothing the first 3 weeks, you drop him and you pick someone else up because he was free. Okay? There's just way too much potential there for him to not be to not take him in, like, the last round or second to last round of your draft. So these are the type of moves that you make when to win, like, to win your leagues, because he could be a solid top 24 running back and you're getting him in the last round. So Another name to keep an eye on that's been getting a little bit of hype is Deneric Prince, rookie. And the only reason you should kind of keep that in mind is just because look at what they did with Pacheco last year, a 7th round guy, and they handed him the backfield. If Allaire is not Allaire and Pacheco's hurt, they're fine. I think they're comfortable enough with their offense and their players on this team where they're okay with giving it to a rookie. So Deneric Prince coming, I think from Tulsa, 6 foot, 220, good size, getting some hype. So a name to keep an eye on. Like if you see him getting some steam early on, maybe target him as a waiver wire guy. But move on to the receivers, Dad.
Sure.
We have Kadarius Toney listed here as the wide receiver 1. They traded for him in the middle of last year. He didn't really do much. Did have a big play in the Super Bowl. We have Marquez Valdez Scantling, MVS, who's going into his second year with Kansas City. We have Sky Moore, rookie last year, didn't do much, going into his second year. We have Rashee. There's a lot of interesting guys. Rashee Rice, a rookie that they took. Was he a 2nd round pick? I think he was.
I think he was, yeah.
Yeah, Rashee Rice. And I liked Rashee Rice. I thought he looked decent going to Kansas City. I mean, Richie James coming over from New York, and a guy who I'm going to look it up as we talk about these guys, but I'm pretty sure he was like a top 15 receiver there for a good stretch of time with New York, caught a lot of passes. And then a guy, guys that have been getting hyped up, Justin Watson, Justin Ross. I think Justin Ross is the guy that's getting hyped up a little bit. Anyways, a lot of names here, Dad. What do you make of this receiving room? I will tell you real quick, I think the first receiver being taken in drafts is still Kadarius Toney. He's being taken 82nd overall, so you're looking at a around 8 pick. And then Sky Moore's the second guy, like around 9 pick. So go ahead, Dad. What do you?
Yeah, Sky Moore only caught 22 passes last year, so there is a lot of people here. It's kind of hard to put your thumb on it. If you feel like you got some balls, maybe the rookie Rashee Rice, Toney, I don't know, guy. I mean, he's been promising. They've been promising something out of him for 2 or 3 years now. So it kind of hasn't happened. Richie James, I think he's a kind of a slot receiver type guy. I know he caught quite a few passes with the Giants. He was kind of Daniel Jones's man there later in the season, but I don't know. I don't think they're depending in those other guys, Watson and Ross. So they're all going to have roles. So I just don't, besides Kelsey, which we haven't gotten to yet. Boy, it's hard to nail something on the wide receiver room here.
It is, but it is intriguing to potentially take a shot and throw a dart at someone, 1 or 2 guys late in the draft. So the Richie James stack was week 11 to 17 because he didn't play in week 18. So week 11 to 17, we're looking at 7 games here. He was the wide receiver 12 in fantasy football, which is a decent stretch. He was catching a lot of passes. He had 37 catches in those 7 games. So he had a decent amount of catches there. So, yeah, it is really tough. I think I'm out on Kadarius Toney unless he falls a few rounds, and then I'll take a chance. Like, again, we mentioned it. He's currently being drafted 82nd overall. Now, this was from July 1st, so this was before learning about the injury. So that's probably dropped a bit. But 82nd is too rich for me. Round 7, too rich. If he falls to round 10, okay, maybe. Sky Moore is interesting because, you can get him in round 9 or so. he's probably going to move up a bit because the Kadarius Toney injury, but he's interesting because it's like, well, second year, he's learned the offense. I liked him coming out of college. He's not going to be like a Tyreek Hill level, but he could be a solid player. Rashee Rice is a rookie, but I'm a little worried because it's like, well, do rookies just have a hard time catching on in this offense, right? And there's just enough guys here to where, you could see the rookie basically not getting much playing time because of it. But he's free, right? He's 162nd overall. So again, that's essentially free. That's like where Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going. MVS, I think I'm out on, although he will. The problem with the Kansas City offense is like MVS is probably not going to be taken off the field most of the time. He's going to be there. He has his role, and I think he's going to be there in most. If they run a 2 wide receiver set, it's going to be MVS and someone else. I don't see anyone kind of supplanting MVS, but also at the same time, I don't see MVS being relevant in fantasy football. We kind of know what he is. He's a big play guy. It's really, really hard. I'm kind of in on Richie James in a weird, and for whatever reason. Again, he's free. He's not even being drafted. He's going 240th overall. So that's round 20, which most drafts don't have. I'm kind of in on him. Like he proved he can get a high, if he gets that volume, that he can put up solid numbers. And there's just so much uncertainty here in this Kansas City offense where it's just like, I'll take a shot on Richie James as my last pick and see what happens the first 2 weeks. If there's nothing there, I'm going to drop one. Yeah. I'd rather do that than take Kadarius Toney of where he's going. Sky Moore, I'm okay if you want to take a shot on. Dad, did you say, like, is there anyone? You said Rashee Rice is the guy you're kind of.
Yeah, it's taking a chance, but I don't know. The problem is he's probably not going to be the man, for the whole season and stuff like that. They're going to throw the ball around to guys, and so Mahomes is going to have some trust probably with the veterans, like MVS, and so we'll have to see. Kelsey's the main guy, so
yeah, and for sure, I would kind of again take a shot on one of these guys besides Toney, because that's not really taking a stab. That's investing a high draft pick. And even Sky Moore is kind of investing a decent draft pick there too. Take a stab on a Rashee Rice or Richie James. And then Justin Ross is the guy. He got hyped last year, got hurt. He was kind of hurt in college a lot. He broke out as like an 18-year-old at Clemson. Had 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. Came back and had another good year of almost 900 yards and 8 touchdowns, and then I think he got hurt the next 2 years. So there was hype around him, and that was with T. Higgins, by the way. He outperformed T. Higgins as an 18-year-old in 2018 on this Clemson team. He had a better year than T. Higgins, and then T. Higgins, was better than him in the next year, but. We're talking about a guy that was basically comparable stats to T. Higgins in college, and being a couple years younger than him. So that's why he's getting the hype. So I'm even okay with you want to take a shot on Justin Ross. He is getting the hype. Take a shot on him. See what happens. Because, again, if there's a receiver that can hit and they start to funnel it into Kelsey and like they did with Tyreek Hill, there's a lot of value. So, last thing here is Travis Kelce. Again, not much to talk about. Travis Kelce is good at football. The only question is, he obviously is the tight end one. There's no question. The only question is, where do you take him? Dad, what pick are you comfortable? Let's say half PPR. What pick are you comfortable with taking him in the first round? Are you okay with the top 5, top 8?
I'd say, 6 through 12, I'd be okay. In a 12-team league, picking Kelsey, maybe even 5, just off the top of my head. So
let me go through. So Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, you're obviously taking those guys over Kelsey.
Yeah, Cup.
McCaffrey and Cup, you're taking over Kelsey.
Yes.
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I would probably take Hill over Kelsey.
Okay, so then it's Eckler, Diggs, Bijan. Any of those guys you take over Kelsey in half PPR?
Maybe Diggs. So then I start thinking of Kelsey and stuff.
Okay. So 6, 7. Yeah, you're right there. 6th, 7th overall.
Yeah.
He's not going to score as many points as those guys that we listed, but it's the positional advantage you get of like tight end is a wasteland, and you just have such a huge positional advantage of a guy that's going to give you 15 points a game at the tight end position in half PPR when no one else can, when only a couple others are going to get to double digits, and everyone else's tight end on the team is probably going to be like 8 or 9 points. Yeah. Kelsey averaged 15.5 points last year in half PPR. The tight end 2 average was 11.5. So 4 more points a game. So that's where the value is. He's not going to score as much as Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's going to get 300 points, right? 280 to 300 points. These running backs, a couple of them, there's going to be 3 or 4 of them that are going to get to over 300 points. So, but the point is, you get this huge advantage where everyone else you're getting 5 more points a game probably in your matchups at the tight end position. So, yeah, I agree with you. I'm right around that 6, 7. I'm thinking about Kelsey. PPR, I'd maybe even go like top 5. So, that's all we have for the Chiefs. I think they're good. Like they should be in a lot of shootouts as well in that division, hopefully, and they're a good team. I don't see that changing. Super Bowl favorites, they should be. So, anything else, Dad, you want to say on the Chiefs, or we'll just wrap it up?
No, I think you summarized it pretty good right there. So, best offense in the league as we know it. Andy Reid's always throwing the ball 60% of the time, running 40%. I mean, that's historically going back to his Eagles day. So that's what you need to bank on.
Exactly. So we'll be back with the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders, division opponent. As always, if you could like the video and subscribe, that would be fantastic.